Hey, PeachBed23 here. Thanks for coming back to another reaction video. Warhammer, the Tempestus Scions. I hope I said that right. By Baldermort Scout of Warhammer. As always, the links to the original video and channel are going to be down in the description below, so go ahead and make sure that you check them out. Now, I know I've had these guys kind of on the back burner. Now, from what I do remember, they're kind of... I always pictured them as kind of a souped up Imperial Guard, right? I mean, at first I was like, hey, these guys would probably be special forces, right? As far as like, actually, I think if I remember, the Tempestus Scions are actually a certain Imperial Guard, right? I mean, because you got the Kree, you got Cadians, and I remember them. So they're probably just their own group, but they definitely look like they had a lot more technology helping them out, right? At the very least, I know these are probably going to be your more above average Imperial Guard, right? In terms of tech, maybe physical abilities as well. And as far as tactics, I don't know. We'll have to find out. And before we get into the actual video, if you could do me just one quick favor, hit that like button, subscribe. It takes about 2 to 3 seconds. It's free. It helps me a lot. Helps me a lot with the YouTube algorithm and all that. Hit that notification bell so you get notified every time I do upload. And without wasting too much for time, let's go ahead and get right into the video.
We travelled by hauler, clandestinely, until we had reached the planet. No markings, no threat. When in high orbit, we scanned the planet for advanced war specs. None was in place. Yet. Some of the ships coming to and from the spaceport were not a design of the Imperium. These filthy traitors will pay. As the old adage goes, never trust a Xenos bearing gifts. This is how Xenos laid the trap. They make wild promises of a better life, and pay up in trinkets and tech, and anything else they think will get their foot in the door. When that has happened, it is a swift descent into their clutches. Xenos. Never ever trust anything they promise, provide, or
As far as Xenos go, I mean, he says that obviously they try to like give you some stuff, right? He said to get his foot in the door, but only ones I can think of that would actually try to do this is probably maybe Tau, Eldar, and every other race. I don't even think they would want to do that because I feel like they try to kill you on the spot. I mean, including Drukhari, Orcs. You're gonna include damn it, I'm drawing a blank right now. What are those things? Tyranids, that's what they were. Okay. Maybe the Harlequins. I do remember a little bit about them, and that they've worked alongside with certain Space Marines. I don't know which one specifically, or I'm not sure if it was Imperial Guard. So it seems like there would be very few races, unless it's some of the smaller races I've heard from like Brecky's podcast that this ridiculous. Because there's a lot more species, but from what I understood is that they don't necessarily have a big story focused on them, right? They're more like kind of like a little side character to really probably expand the universe.
proffer. They want us all dead. But some are cunning enough to wait generations to attain their goal. Never trust a Xenos, under any circumstances, gifts or no.
Wait, as far as when you said about some will wait generations, is he talking about, I don't know if they were called cultists or gene stealers, or that's just the same thing, but I think they were the ones that I've heard from Brecky's podcast again, was that they would live underground at first, right? And then every generation that comes after, they would eventually start looking more human or be able to like pass off as like a regular human more easily. And then, after a while, I think it would cause like internal damage while the actual main force is supposed to come in. I think it was.
So we went into high orbit and then down towards the land-based spaceport. On the way, our platoon was dropped. It was timed perfectly. As the ship travelled very nearly over our target, the doors opened on the side of the hauler, and out we jumped. Our Grav Shoot slowing our descent, covered by the cowl of night. We are tasked with not using our thrusters in case we are spotted. This will be a hard drop, but compared to even a normal day at the Schola Progenium, this will be a cakewalk. I see my platoon around me at regular intervals. We slowly descend, no sudden movements to catch the eye. Our weapons are blacked or stowed, to limit the chance of reflected light. But we need not have been so careful. As we descend towards what looks like an antiquated feral world castle, the lights from below are beaming.
Oh, wait, so real quick, when he talks about them jumping out at night, right? I just moved the mic a little back because I see it was a little too loud. It kind of reminded me of PJs from the military, right? Or maybe, I mean, well, technically, most special forces do skydiving, right? Or parajumping. I forget the exact term. But as far as like, because I don't know if he mentioned anything about a parachute. I'm pretty sure he didn't. He did mention, I think, a thruster, but that they don't use it just because they don't want to give away their position, which makes sense because since they're doing this at night, be very dead giveaway. So I'm assuming that they're going to be using it at the very last second, right, to kind of like help break their fall, because I doubt they're really just jumping right down to the ground. But if that is the case, that sudden, I guess, stoppage when you start to engage with thrusters at the end to try to slow your fall, if that's what they do, I feel like that's going to cause a lot of harm to yourself physically. And maybe you mistime it and then you hit the ground, splatter. So I don't know exactly how they would land. It doesn't seem like it was really said, or if it even is like stated anywhere. I would assume some kind of parachute though.
And the hall was loud enough to cover us, even if we had raised our voices collectively to extol the Emperor. One after another us drop onto the battlements and crenellations of this ancient building, all that they were capable of building before the coming of the Imperium to set them free and bring them into compliance, and by doing so raise them up. Ingrates. How swiftly they forget their debts. Our briefing was simplicity itself. Tithes had not been paid for decades, and observers had been sent. It seems that the local aristocracy who ran this world had become bored of compliance, had started to make trade pacts with Xenos. So here we are. I can only hope that this message will be enough for this world. If this does not work, then they are sending Krieg. They won't like that. So ours is a last-ditch attempt to bring them back into the flock, into loyalty. I see a lone guard in front of me on the battlements, walking his rounds as always. He has not heard me. He is looking down into the courtyard where...
Alright, so okay, because I don't know. I mean, obviously more covert operations it seems like they're doing, as far as because they're going in at night. And since he mentioned that they would send in the Krieg, right, if they were not, because apparently this is their last chance, right? At least in this little story. And obviously they're probably not going to be, I guess, diplomatic about it, as far as like talking to them like, hey, this is your last chance. If you trade with any type of Xenos again, we're going to send the Krieg. I think it's more they're going to do it by force, as far as sending them a little message, maybe like kill half of them or something like that. And then so they could sign like, hey, probably shouldn't trade anymore with any Xenos. And then if they continue to do that, I'm pretty sure that's when they're going to send the Krieg in, which I don't think any of us would want to go against.
Some fop is staggering around while throwing up a week's worth of rations for most. Probably a year's worth of any form of alcohol ration as well. I land daintily, quietly, and take 10 quiet steps to be behind him. I put my hand over his mouth, and with the other hand slip a knife into his back in just the right place. He struggles for less than 2 seconds before he's slack in my arms. I slowly crouch, placing him on the ground, as I see a score of my colleagues do the same from around other areas of the battlements and rooftops. We move as one. We are well trained. Everyone knows their role and performs it to the letter.
I just want to admire this picture real quick. This looks extremely difficult to be lugging around and being very quiet. Although I don't know if this is an actual picture because I don't see any type of thruster. I see like an old style type sword right here. But was it the part about he says like about covering the person's mouth and then stabbing him in the back, right? obviously we were never really taught. I mean, being like your basic grunt in the Marine Corps, right? We were never really taught, I guess, how to do like stealthily take someone out. And you see many different types of things, like in say video games or movies, where they cover their mouth, suffocate them, or something like that. They choke them, which a lot of the times for movies, the choke looks absolutely horrible, right? If you've ever done any jiu-jitsu, like no one in the movies knows how to do a damn rear naked choke. Um, or yeah, with the knife, you see them cut the throat. You see them just stab right here. Or like this guy says he stabs in the back. If you knew, because like I don't know, maybe you were special forces, right? What's the method that people typically use? Because you want to be, obviously, you want to be quiet, but you also, I would assume you would also want to make it quick and just make sure absolutely no one is alerted. Because for the most part, I mean, I don't know how other countries would do it, but at least at the Marine Corps, you're never going to find one person by themselves where someone could just take them out. There's always going to be at least one buddy or your battle buddy.
Within a minute, there are our watchdogs on the walls, preparing to cause carnage when we do what we have been sent to do. For my part, I am standing on a high platform with a dozen of my fellows, and we look down on the great hall. I have to refrain from hawking and spitting as I see what is transpiring below. Xenos, being feasted, being feted, being lavishly fawned over. One entire side of this 50-setting table is filled with blue aliens without any nose. Their expressions are blank, but their words seem warm. And the traitors on the other side of the table, lords, ladies, merchants and morons, are all lapping it up. Clap.
I mean, technically from, the time where all the Xeno races were going to be attacking humanity because of the whole AI and the revolt, I don't think the Tau were a thing back then, or were even involved. And it seems like he's obviously this guy's looking at Tau, right? Because he said blue skin and showed the picture. I honestly don't see what the reasoning is as far as them hating the Tau, other than they're just Xenos, right? And that anybody who's not human is not on your side. Do you think this is actually? Because I think it would be smart, at least with the Tau, as far as like trying to broker maybe an alliance, right? Because obviously, the Imperium isn't as it was or as big as it was way back when, and it's kind of difficult to do everything with just your species unless you were the Emperor or had someone of his ability, which he almost did it, but then the Horus Heresy. So making friends, I mean, and the Tau seem probably the only one. I mean, maybe the Harlequins as well. Certain Eldars, probably other ones would probably also make an alliance. But then again, I could understand why they would be very cautious about that, considering what did happen. So I think Tau would probably be an exception, just because they were not involved, as far as I know, attacking humanity. Except now, obviously, I would believe there's a bit skirmishes, but it seems like it'd be a pretty well as far as like being able to trade knowledge, trade technology, maybe to help actually push the Imperium a little further. But then again, I know how they are about advancing tech.
Clapping and cheering at points as the leader of the blue monstrosities raises toasts, pretends to be human. My gorge rises, but I do not have long to wait. Our sergeant gives us all the signal, a silent thumbs up, and we act in concert. A dozen grenades are dropped over the side. The impact and the crescendo of the explosion slams into us, all as we stand far away from the edge, but our helmets protect us from being deafened. In one smooth and fluid motion, we all then advance one step and level our hotshot las guns over the side and fire. We fire at anything that is still moving. There was not much. The entire aristocracy of this world has just been removed. The trade delegation of the Xenos filth will not know it was us and potentially suspect a betrayal from the leadership of this errant planet. They will not react well. So with one strike, one action, just one platoon, we have pushed this world back into compliance. They will simply have no choice now but to stand and fight their erstwhile allies.
So it kind of seemed like with that line, at least, they would never know it was us. It seemed like these guys maybe try to keep a lower profile, right? So nobody knows too much about them, or would never expect them, right?
Welcome, gentle listener. I am Baldermort, and I wish to introduce you to the forces, factions, and units of the Warhammer 40k universe. Today, we will be looking at one of the most potent forces of humans outside of the legendary Adeptus Astartes, the Space Marines. For today, we are to discuss the Scions of the Militarum Tempestus, the elite of the Imperial Guard. But for this, we shall lean on existing wisdom. To quote, the Militarum Tempestus. Militarum Tempestus Scions are cold, proficient killers whose deadly firepower reduces foes to smouldering heaps of corpses. Trained in the Schola Progenium, these men commit to a rigorous program of physical and mental indoctrination that raises them to the peak of human conditioning. Loyal to the Emperor above all else, Tempestus Scions provide high command with a core of flexible, nigh incorruptible soldiers. Deployed sparingly, they can be depended upon to complete any mission, no matter how deadly. Racing into battle aboard armoured transports or plummeting down on Grav Shoots, the Scions are the sharp edge of the Imperial Guard's war machine. Each squad of Tempestus Scions consists of veteran warriors trained and equipped to the highest standard, protected by rigid armor class and reinforced ceremony.
Did you mean veterans, or like that they're made up of veterans? Does that mean that they come from like other Imperial Guard regiments, for example, like Cadians, right, or Steel Legion? Like, would they come from there, or can somebody go immediately in? And also, I didn't hear anything about being physically altered, right? More than just being conditioned. So I'm assuming they don't have like any. I mean, yeah, they probably have better gear, right? But it doesn't seem. It still seems like they're still like on 100% human. Like they didn't have any alterations, essentially.
Plates. Scions wield a sophisticated range of high-powered weapons that perfectly complement their shock assault role, and their discipline is such that they can direct their firepower to absolute optimum effect. Unlike the guardsmen of the Astra Militarum, Scions endure a brutally uncompromising training regime, ensuring that only the most skilled and resolute amongst them ever see battle. The standard issue weapon for Tempestus Scions is the Hot Shot lasgun. Each of these rifles is fitted with a potent external power cell, allowing them to penetrate thicker armor than the mass-produced lasguns used by rank-and-file guardsmen. When deployed against armored enemy infantry, Tempestus Scions wield hot-shot volley guns. With a more powerful blast and extremely high rate of fire, they are perfect for bringing down traitor Space Marines and Xenos beasts. Militarum Tempestus Scions, often viewed with fear or resentment by the regular troops. Nicknames such as Glory Boys and Big Toy Soldiers are common. Yet this rancor is nothing to the Scions themselves.
Oh, by the way, I'm going to start referring them to just Scions because I was saying their names wrong the whole time. Tempestus, not Tempest. But it seems like some of the other regiments might be a little jelly.
Trained in covert operations and rapid insertion strike tactics, they go to battle confident that their every deed is for the good of the Imperium, carrying out their orders with merciless and uncompromising pragmatism. Tempestor Primes. Each Militarum Tempestus platoon is led into battle by a grizzled officer known as a Tempestor Prime. Such men are promoted on battlefield record alone, their accolades earned through courage and unshakable discipline in the line of fire. The tactics they employ as a commander are the product of the countless missions that they have undertaken as a scion, and as such they have an intrinsic understanding of the capabilities of their soldiers. Able to operate on their own initiative in a way entirely alien to the majority of the Astra Militarum, these men lead their Progenium brethren into battle with merciless efficiency. Tempestus Command Squads. Each Tempestus
That what he said right there. So does that mean that they can kind of do things their own way so long as it gets the mission done? Because he did say it's different from like the other guard regiments. So instead of being told, hey, we need you to do this, we need you to do it this way, it's more, hey, we need you to do this, and you decide how you want to get there, right? That's what it kind of seemed like it was getting at.
Command squad is comprised of the very best scions in the regiment. A Tempestus command squad will often shadow a Tempestor Prime on an operation, shielding him against incoming fire while answering with salvos of their own. Vox operators relay the Tempestor Prime's commands across the Vox net, while medics patch up and inject stimulant concoctions into downed soldiers so that they can continue to fight. Some Tempestus command squads also carry their platoon's banner into battle, waving its colours in proud defiance as they lead the charge against the enemy. End quote. One of the most interesting pieces of equipment that the Tempestors have is the Grav Shoot. And again, for this entry I shall lean on existing wisdom. I do not see the point in reinventing the wheel. To quote, a Grav Shoot is a small backpack-size anti-gravitic device that allows Imperial troops to float safely to the ground on a column of anti-gravitic force from any height in a world's gravity well.
Well, I guess I can explain my earlier question as far as how they actually touch ground. So the fact that it's not called like a thruster, because I was imagining like kind of like the Astartes type of jump pack, right, or jetpack, jump pack. And you know, it's like a little. So the way he said it, the gravity, I'm assuming how it has a lower sound, right, or it doesn't make as much sound, right, which would be great if you're trying to sneak in, but it probably might have like a little. I know this isn't a picture of it, but it might have like a little bit of a glow that would probably give the position away, which is probably why he stated that back in that story.
Including suborbital heights. A Grav Shoot contains a generator that emits suspensor fields that can carry the force of gravity at the particle level, and two small promethium-fueled thrusters on each side of the pack that provide some directional control as well as contribute to the shoot's aero-braking effect. A Grav Shoot is used to drop Imperial troops directly into combat from either a low-flying aircraft or from a vehicle operating in a planet's upper atmosphere. If required, a Grav Shoot can allow an Imperial soldier to hover above his target for 1 minute at a time. In many ways, a Grav Shoot is a smaller...
Wait, real quick, for 1 minute at a time, why did that seem like something out of a video game, right? And then I'm assuming it recharges.
And less capable version of a jump pack. But unlike that technology, it is intended only to control a fall that is already in place, rather than lifting a person's entire weight up some altitude into the air. A Grav Shoot's solar battery power supply provides enough energy to operate the device for a standard hour before it needs it to be replaced or recharged. Grav Shoots are most often used by Imperial Guard stormtroopers, carrying out Special Forces infiltration operations, and for the deep strike airborne raids initiated by the Elysian Drop Troop and Harkoni Warhawks regiments. End quote. So you can see that these are truly elite warriors, the Imperium's equivalent of Special Forces, but not quite as special as those rare beings, the Space Marines. For the Scions come from the halls and walkways of the Schola Progenium, the training grounds of the Sisters of Battle, the officers of the Imperium, and commissars. These are truly elite warriors who are as flexible and as dangerous as they are well equipped. It is these units that are always kept in reserve or used at crux points in any confrontation, if a general is lucky or influential.
But these guys are probably more on the smaller end as far as numbers. So again, like how we said, like it seems like they're going to be more used like in crucial moments. So I wonder how big they would be. I wonder if these would like I mean, I would assume it'd be on the smaller end, but I don't know which is the smallest guard regiment. Because then again, for Major Kill's video, as far as like the guard regiments, there's still a whole bunch that weren't even included in those two videos. But that there were some that were just kind of there to be there, and some of them I remember him mentioning didn't even have like a lot of information on them. But as far as like the well-known ones, I would assume these guys would be on the smaller end as far as numbers go.
Enough to secure their services. These warriors are called the Stormtroopers. But in the Warhammer 40k universe, if someone said, "And these blast marks, too accurate for sand people, only Imperial Stormtroopers are so accurate," it will be done without a shred of irony. For anyone that comes from the purgatory that is the Schola Progenium is indeed one of the brightest lights of humanity, and the very best that they have to offer in the never-ending age of war.
Alright, so let's go ahead and talk about that for a minute. Now, okay, so obviously these guys are like more special forces on the more special forces end, right? Obviously Astartes would also be that, but I'm thinking of it just in terms of the Imperial Guard only in the Imperial regiments, right? So these guys are probably, I don't know if they're the top as far as skill goes, not as far as numbers or like manpower or anything like that. As far as like one individual to the other, which now that I think about it, what if you had one person from each single regiment? Who do you think would come on top? And obviously, you know, they would get like their best gear, whatever regiment they're from. Because if I remember right, the Krieg would have certain ones of people who had like, I don't know if it was like a grenade launcher or what kind of gun it was, but it would only hold like 200 rounds to do a lot of power, but you would run out pretty quick. Or it'd be like Acadians with their las guns, or any type of regiment, and then just give them like the best weapons that they have, and it kind of, I don't know, like a free for all, right? Because as of right now, from what I've heard and from some of the other regiments, it's just little brief descriptions of them. It seems like these guys are probably at the top of the food chain in that regards. And I believe he said that these guys came more from like I don't remember what it's called. It's one of those names, but like somewhat like from like sister sororitas, the commissars, officers, all that. So does that mean that they probably don't have necessarily big chunks of information on them as some of the other regiments? Mainly because I feel like they would probably have to remain a little more mysterious, right? Or like a little more on the covert side, kind of like the Sisters of Silence. I believe very few even know about them, and I think to most nobody knows them, but I think it was that they still would, like, people would get like this eerie feeling around them, right? Or just downright hate them. So yeah, so I would assume as far as in the actual universe, these guys are probably not well known, but are highly effective. So that's pretty much all I got to say for this video, though. Again, I just want to say thanks for watching, thanks for coming back, thank you for being patient, and I will see you all on the next video. Bye.